The Raid 2, one of the best martial arts movies ever made. In fact, I think it might be the best martial art movie ever made. It's funny because the first time I saw this movie, I wasn't blown away because I was so blown away by the first movie and the whole concept of the SWAT officers kind of going into this building trying to apprehend this drug lord or this crime lord, and he's at the top and they're fighting their way through. But I had that same concept in my mind when I went to go see The Raid 2. But it's a completely different movie. It's a completely different movie. And director Gareth Evans, who directed both The Raid and The Raid 2, he had the concept for this film before The Raid, the first Raid, and it's a film that he wanted to do and a script that he had written beforehand for a different movie. And he basically adapted this story into the sequel for The Raid, and it works perfectly. It works really well. I think the first time when I watched it, I was blown away like everybody else with the fight scenes, particularly the two fight scenes at the end between Hammer Girl and Baseball Bat Guy and Rama. And Rama's battle after that in the kitchen with the assassin with the Karambit knives. Like, those two scenes are the best fight scenes I think that I've seen in the movies, period. I really think so. And there are some fantastic fight scenes with from some of the best in the business. You know, you got Tony Jaa, you got Donnie Yen, you got Jackie Chan, you know, Bruce Lee, of course. You could get Wu Jing, you could go on and on and on, you know. The stuff that the guys who did John Wick, Chad Kachowski and David Lynch are doing, you know, John Wick 2, Atomic Blonde, some fantastic fight scenes in those films. But those two fight scenes at the end of this movie really just blew me away. Fantastic. And I remember being in the cinema, and after the fight scene between Hammer Girl and Baseball Bat Guy and Rama, there was a gasp. But then he goes into the kitchen and he fights the assassin, and that fight scene, it must be about 6 or 7 minutes long. And after the scene ends, there's like a silence. The music stops, the grunting, the action stops, and there's like a silence. But in the cinema, it was just like a huge gasp of everyone, like, whoa! Like, and I remember that distinctly. It was just breathtaking, you know, because up until that point, it was weird. I look back at this film now, how was I disappointed? Because those two fight scenes were fantastic, but there was some crazy action throughout the movie. The car chase, the prison fight in the mud, the opening fight with Rama in the toilet in the prison and all the guys coming in and attacking him and he's taking them all on. Hammer Girl, Baseball Bat Guy, Hammer Girl in the subway, Baseball Bat Guy taking on those guys. Mad Dog from the first film, who's in this, the same actor playing a different character. When he takes on all the guys in the club, when he's betrayed. You've got the time when he has to assassinate a particular guy and he has a machete. He's sitting on the street corner eating food, and then he sees the guy he needs to assassinate with all his henchmen come out of like a club or something, and he puts the food down and then he gets up and he's got a machete, and the guys, the guy's bodyguards attack him, but he doesn't actually kill any of them. He doesn't use his machete on any of them. He just uses it on the one guy and he just kills him with one shot. And then there's that brilliant shot of him pulling the machete out of the guy, and then you see the camera shows the mid close-up shot of him withdrawing the blade, and then you see the guy's bloody back, and then he drops, and then you see it focuses on Mad Dog's character. I keep calling him Mad Dog because I forget his name in this movie, because it's a very small role, but it was a very impactful role. So there were so many great like moments in this movie. I just can't believe, I'm just talking about the action alone, that I can't believe that I was disappointed. I think it's because this movie is, even though I'm saying it's like probably the greatest martial art movie ever made, or at least up there in the top 3, it's not just a martial art movie, it's also a dramatic kind of gangster movie. You know, it's like The Departed, or it's like Goodfellas in a way. It's a really intricate story and really strong story of these gangsters in Indonesia, and also the battle that the truce that they have with the Japanese, and also the son who's trying to start a war with them because he believes that he's trying to be the top of the family syndicate and all of this stuff. And obviously Rama being the undercover cop who's trying to expose these guys, and it's kind of a carry on from the first film, because obviously the the people he had to take on in the first film aren't the people at the top, you know, and they're trying to, he goes undercover because basically his unit are trying to get the big dogs, you know. So it's such an intricate crime story. So it's like a crime thriller with the best martial arts action that you will see in any movie. You know what? You can pick any fight scene or action scene in this movie, and it's probably better than 99.9% of the final fight scenes or action scenes in any Hollywood film. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. And like I said, this film, it's like a fusion of that brilliant martial arts action that we love, you know, that I'm sure you love if you're watching my channel. You know, this is all about martial arts in the movies, so obviously we're going to talk about that, but it's a fusion of that brilliant martial arts action that you see in these raid movies, in these Indonesian action movies, and then this brilliant kind of drama and crime thriller story, you know, and it's a fusion of the two, you know, and I think it works flawlessly. It really does. And I think when I watched it the second time I watched it, I took the expectations that and preconceptions that I had coming into watching it for the first time, I took them out of my head. And just watching it again, I was like, it was like my mind was clear. It was like, how did I not like this movie? It's fantastic as a film, as an action film, as a martial art film, and just as a film and a piece of art. You know, the camera work is so phenomenal. The editing is so brilliant. The way it follows the action, you know, it's not just a bunch of shaky cams. You know, like Gareth Evans and the DPs, they know how to set up the shots, the editing, the timing, the choreography. It's just all just flawless. One thing I really loved is Rama, Iko Uwais. Thank you for correcting me in the comment section. I appreciate it. I did a review on The Night Comes For Us, another brilliant, crazy Indonesian martial arts action movie. Probably the most violent film I've ever seen, and definitely worth checking out. And some of the people watching from Indonesia, you helped me with the pronunciation, so I appreciate that. But Iko Uwais, he, for me, is such a great charismatic actor and performer, because he's a brilliant martial artist, and he never grew up as a classically trained actor. You know, he was a martial artist who Gareth Evans met in Indonesia when he was doing a documentary on Pencak Silat, which are the martial arts that we see in this movie, and the indigenous martial arts of Indonesia, which Iko is obviously an expert at. So he has learned acting, the craft of acting, through the films that he's done with Gareth Evans. But I think what he brings to the table, especially in this film, is he seems like he's a good man, and he's also got this sense of innocence and sense of empathy and kindness to him, and wanting to do the right thing. You know, he's a man who's, you know, driven by his duty, but he also is driven by his family. He's a family man. He's got his wife and his son, I believe it's a son, at home. You know, a young, you know, newly born child. So. And you saw it from the first film that I believe she was pregnant in the first film before he went off on the raid. And now obviously she's had the child, and he has to sacrifice the life with them to go on this undercover mission, you know. So you see his vulnerabilities, you know, when he's calling them, you know, he calls her and you know, he's speaking to her on the phone, and there's a moment where he says, after he speaks to her, he's like, can I just hear his voice? Because he wants to hear the baby's voice. And he's just listening. And it's funny because he plays a bunch of loud music in the apartment, so they couldn't, just in case there's any bugs in the apartment, that the crime lord set him up with him. So he plays loud music while he's on the phone, so you hear the music in the background, and then when he puts his hand in his ear, when it comes to that point when he's trying to listen to his child in the background, and then the music just dies and you just hear the child's voice, and you just his face says it all. Like, you see like the joy in his face of hearing his child in the background, and you see what matters to him in the film. You know, he's trying to create a better world for his family. So he's got that vulnerability, he's got that empathy, he's got that essence of a good man. You know, he's a cop, he's a police officer, he's trying to do good, you know, he's an elite warrior, he's an elite SWAT officer, should I say. But he's also got brutality, and you see it in the fights, you know. Like the scene where there's a scene where he's being attacked, and then it spills over into a restaurant where he's attacked in a taxi, and it spills over into a restaurant. And there's a guy who he gets his face and he puts it into like the grill, and he's holding the guy's face there for so long, and completely burns half of his face off. He looks like Two-Face, you know, from Batman. Like, it just completely shreds his face, and that was really brutal. And it's some of the brutality that he has to bring out in these circumstances, being, you know, being an undercover cop. But the great part of it is, after that scene, he sees that there's a sign that says police, and he kind of looks with regret as he sees the guy's police badge on him, or an ID card or something. I think it was an ID card. So you see these moments of vulnerability mixed with this brutality, you know, that you see in the fight scenes. And yeah, it's just really great. I think as an actor, he carries the film well, and you really feel for him when he's in these fight scenes. You know, he gets hurt, he goes through hell, you know. He goes through hell. He just go, especially in that final act of the film, when he takes on all those henchmen, and then he takes on baseball bat guy and hammer girl. Then he takes on the assassin with the double karambit knives. You know, and it's just crazy how much he goes through. You see the blood, the bruises, the hits he has to take. You know, and it's just he's a great leading man for this film. You know, and he feels like an everyday man. You know, with extraordinary martial arts skills, and you're like, thank God he's got these skills, or he wouldn't be able to survive half of this, you know. Like, the prison fight is amazing. The one in the mud, like where he saves the son of the crime lord. I forget the character's name in the film. One of his guys betrays him, and that's how he gets in with the crime lord's boss's son. So that mud fight scene was just brilliant, because his mission was to save that guy's life, you know, he's been betrayed by his ally, or his supposed ally, in the prison. And it was just great. I mean, it's just crazy that some of the fighting choreography in the mud, you know, these guys are slipping and sliding. He's using double sticks. He's using hand-to-hand combat. You've got the riot police coming in. You've got all the prisoners fighting, and there's some really fantastic choreography in that scene. It's such a great film. It's such a great film. If you haven't seen The Raid 2, go and watch The Raid 2. In fact, if you haven't seen The Raid 1, just do yourself a favor. Watch them back to back. Watch The Raid and then watch The Raid 2. Understand that they're two different films. The Raid is a very straightforward action film. It's a film where these SWAT officers, they need to get to the top of the building to arrest this guy. And they have to go through all these different levels, and, you know, they've got all this chaotic kind of violence and things to go through, you know. And it's a very tense film. There's a lot of tension in it. There's a lot of, you know, kind of tense moments in the film. This film is more of a crime drama, you know. It's a film in the vein of The Departed, or, you know, Goodfellas, that kind of thing. It's a crime drama with over-the-top, fantastic martial arts choreography and action scenes. Some of the best that you'll see in any movie, hands down. It's a 5 out of 5. It's a must-see. It's a top 3. If not, for me, I think it's the best martial art movie ever made. It's a kind of a hard statement for me to say. It's definitely top 3. If not, it's the best martial art movie ever made. And it's crazy, because the first time I saw it, I didn't like it that much. I was like disappointed. But that's just because I had such a high bar from my expectations of seeing the first one. And my expectations were that I was going to see the same film again, just bigger and badder. You know, another raid somewhere else, you know, raiding in a shopping centre or something. So I had a different expectation of what the film was going to be before I went in the film. So that's why I was disappointed. So watching it with fresh mindset, it was like, what was I thinking? It's a fantastic movie, must-see movie. And like I said, these guys in Indonesia, they're really smashing it. You got The Raid, you got The Raid 2. There's a film called Headshot that I need to see. As of this recording, I haven't seen it, but I will see it, and I will be talking about it. So we will have a discussion about it. And obviously, The Night Comes for Us. Definitely check out my video on that. brilliant, absolutely brilliant. People are loving this movie at the moment. It's a great talking point, so let's talk about that. And again, let's talk about The Raid. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of The Raid 2. Is it one of the best martial art movies you've ever seen? Do you think it's the best martial art movie that's ever been created? I want to know your thoughts, so comment down below. Let's have a discussion. And if you're into movies and martial arts, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any of my videos. I'll have videos every week for you on the martial arts in the movies. Anyway, I'll see you next time for another video. And remember, behind every fight is a great story. Peace.